Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, Marie-Louise Eta breaks barriers in football as the first ever woman to coach a top-tier European men's football club at Union Berlin. But the landmark appointment also triggering a backlash of misogyny. And we all know it to be the case, but now we have the data to back it up. A new report reveals the striking underrepresentation of women in positions of power. For instance, women making up just 7% of peace negotiators worldwide. I'll be speaking shortly with the report's co-author, Luba Kassova. Plus, the mythology of motherhood. A Marseille museum has dedicated an exhibition on the stories, ceremonies and art which help shape our view of who is a so-called good mother. But first, and while women's football is becoming increasingly prominent among fans and sponsors, women are rarely, if ever, represented in management and coaching positions in the men's game. Now, a 34-year-old former player is turning the tide in Germany. Yet, despite her track record, she's also suffered from misogynistic harassment, as Olivia Salazar-Winspear reports.
Getting on with the job despite sexism and suggestions she's not welcome on the sidelines. Marie-Louise Eta became the first female coach in European Major League Football when she took on the role at Union Berlin earlier this month. But she's been keen to stress that gender is less important to her than performance on the pitch.
When you find yourself in a position like this, you're also seen as a role model in some ways, as a trailblazer, and I'm familiar with that. And I also understand that this plays a role, especially in the media, in the public eye and in society. But for me, what matters is what happens out here on the pitch, and that's football.
Yet the beautiful game didn't go her way in her debut match, with Union Berlin losing 2-0 to Wolfsburg, a defeat that inches her Bundesliga club even closer to relegation. Both that result and her appointment in the first place prompted waves of misogynistic harassment online, something the clubs described as embarrassing while reiterating its confidence in Eta. Many of her colleagues in the Bundesliga have also been steadfast in their support.
It's easy to minimize and say, yes, she's just a coach like everybody else. And of course, I think that's how we have to treat her as colleagues. But in the end, it's something special. And it's something that behind it opens a lot of opportunity to little girls who are now maybe playing football and thinking, hey, maybe I can coach anywhere. I can make a real career in this game and be successful.
A former Women's Champions League winner, Eta was brought in to coach the men's side until the end of the season. She'd already planned to take over as coach for the women's team in the summer. While men regularly coach major women's leagues and national sides, women have never been offered these top spots until now.
Now, here's some facts to cheer you up. Only 7%, let me repeat that figure, just 7% of peace negotiators in our hawkish world are women, and the pattern continues. Only 7% of CEOs in the Fortune Global 500 are women. In climate tech, that figure rises ever so slightly to just 10%. And in the AI sector, it's the same story, with only 10% of CEOs being female. All of these staggering figures come from a report entitled The Missing Women in Global Power, produced by the UK-based audience strategy consultancy ACAS, as part of their Missing Perspectives series. Its co-author, Luba Kassova, joins me in the studio today. Luba, thank you so much for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you so much for having me, Annette.
Before we go any further, we need to point out that hardly anybody is doing this sort of work, where we see a deep, deep dive into data when it comes to gender representation. And I know that both you and your partner, Richard Addy, have made this your priority. Why is that the case?
So we started off researching this work fairly ignorant. about the level of marginalization that we ended up discovering, which absolutely shocked us. So the first two reports were the missing perspectives of women in news and in COVID news, and they opened our eyes to the extraordinary marginalization of women, not only in news, but in society, and to the effect of that when there is a crisis like COVID, what actually happens when women are marginalized. We felt the need to continue shining light on just how peripheral women are, because we understand how we're all desensitized to this in society, and we feel it's our obligation to point out not just the problem, but also solutions. All our reports are solution-based.
Luba, can you highlight the key findings that you discovered when you actually embarked on researching this report on the lack of women in power?
We were very keen to shine a light on, through statistics, on just how marginalized women are in power across different sectors. So we looked at 14 sectors. And so it was really important for us to leave this history through statistics to show how women are essentially excluded from the decision-making around A, whether there are wars, B, whether or how they end, and C, what's our future looking like in terms of chatbots and whatnot.
And certainly the report's title reflects that, doesn't it? You know, it is about half of society, obviously being female, but we make up less than a fifth of the world's power. And we're dealing with the consequences as we speak, are we not?
We absolutely are. And you're very right. Actually, 20% or 1 in 5 women is the positive scenario. Very often, as you said at the beginning, there are fewer. There is 1 in 14 women who are peace negotiators. That means essentially women are not part of negotiating peace. And there are 1 in 10 heads of states are women. So women are essentially locked out of power. And why that's a problem? It's a problem because our world is bleeding at the moment. It needs compassion, it needs empathy, it needs negotiators, it needs compromise rather than fighting. And women have been conditioned to compromise, to listen more than they speak, to look for consensus rather than for fighting. And when their voices and their presence is missing, the world is bleeding even more.
And the reality is, isn't it, Luba, that women tend to shy away from seeking out positions of power?
Many reasons for it, but the latest that I'm most concerned about is the proliferation of AI tools, which are oppressing and repressing women at scale through production of pornographic deepfakes. And they put so much pressure on politicians who are women, on journalists who are women, on women in public eye. And that makes them recoil even more from being in power.
Indeed, Luba. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this.
Now, for thousands of years, motherhood has been at the heart of stories, ceremonies and art, which help shape society. So Marseille's Museum of European and Mediterranean Civilization is taking a look at this mythology with its Bonne Mère, or Good Mothers in English, exhibition. Luc Schrago has the story.
At Marseille's Museum of European and Mediterranean Civilizations, figurines at a feminist demonstration. It's a shock video in an exhibition questioning maternal figures. From the goddess mother, to the she-wolf protecting her young, or the virgin and child. Not forgetting actor Hafsia Herzi, immortalized in 2009 by Pierre Gilles.
She did an interview for one of the first films that I saw, and I completely fell in love. I found her so beautiful. We got in touch and she said she'd do it. She was adorable.
It was wonderful to work with her. We wanted a Mediterranean Madonna with all the cultural blending. And finding her in Marseille was fantastic because it's the next part of the story. And she's from here herself.
From the Madonna to the motherland, France's Marianne or the Arab world's Kulthum. National icons all, and far from maternity. Artist Edith Laplan worked as a gynecologist for a long time in Marseille. Now she uses the art of embroidery to explore feminine aspects more often veiled from public view.
Edith parle du sang.
Edith talks not just about menstrual blood, but gynecological infections, which could hinder a desire for motherhood, like endometriosis and adenomyosis. She shows these hidden bodies of women from whom life sprung.
What was important for us was to question the taboo. Telling children that babies come from cabbage patches or are delivered by storks, well, the reality is that they're born of women, so why not say that? What's behind the taboo? Behind this hiding of women's bodies, if it isn't just the power to control them better?
And alongside a mother, often too the Mater Dolorosa, the Lady of Sorrows, who's lost her child to war or misfortune. The exhibition, though, ends on a note of love, sung by a local son to his mother, the rapper Jewel. Ultimately, all unfolds in Marseille under the eye of another mother, the Notre Dame de la Garde, better known to locals as the Bonne Mère.
And that's it for this edition, so until our next show, bye for now.